right? There's 20 of them or 10 of them
Yes.
that go back and forth with each other. I blocked a guy this morning on Twitter. I woke up to a guy saying, I don't even know what he said. He said, "Why don't you use the internet to be funny? Come on, clown boy," or whatever.
Oh my God.
And so I just write back at him and said, "Good morning," blocked. That was that. That's what I did, sitting here waiting to get on that show.
Now, does it really bother you? I mean, in the episode.
Well, in the show, it bothers him.
Yeah, it bothers you to the point you go track this guy down.
Dude, the story that is based on in reality was ridiculous. Like, in reality, I did not go find the guy. All right. In reality, a guy started, writing about me on a blog. Not even a popular blog. Well, it's relatively popular to a community of people, but it wasn't even one that I went to. It was a blog for a radio show, and this guy was a fan of that radio show, and he was almost campaigning to get people to hate me. Like, he was calling me a racist. He was calling me misogynist. It was crazy. He was misquoting jokes. So I actually went and I saw his blog postings. I saw the avatar that he used, or I saw his name. Mm-hmm. All right, and how did it work? Right, I saw the avatar he used on the blog, which was a little moving, what do you call it? It's not a JPEG, the ones that...
Animated GIF.
A GIF.
I don't know how I know that. Right. Obviously, I'm a loser.
It's a GIF from Punch Drunk Love. That's his, and his name is right there. So I go to Facebook, and I search that name, and I find 3 guys with that name, and I look at those 3 guys, and I find one of them in Washington, D.C., and I look at his favorite movies, Punch Drunk Love. I'm like, I got my guy. So,
Mark Maron, Private Eye.
Right.
It unfolds just like this in the episode, by the way.
Right.
Only he tracks him down because he knows he's going to be playing
Dungeons and Dragons, right? So I message this guy on Facebook. I'm like, look, dude, if you're going to be critical of me, that's fine, but please don't paraphrase my jokes. Put the entire joke on. If you're, don't be a coward. And then he comes back at me. It's like, oh, you really think it's about that? And we went back and forth for over a year. All right, and I couldn't figure out what, and it got really ridiculous to the point where the guy who hosted the radio show of the blog, who I know now, who's a friend of mine, knew who that guy was, and we ended up talking. It just blew up, and I don't know, at what point do you realize, like, all I'm trying to do is get this one idiot. I got hundreds of people that like me, but I focus on the one idiot who hates my guts, and I'm like, I'm going to get that guy to like me. That's my agenda. And after about a year and a half going back and forth and all ridiculous events, finally he says, I was going through a rough time.
Winner.
By the way, that's people. That's just people. And that's the beauty of your show, is you get to see the nature of people. Now, I'm going to give up the end of the first episode, but boy, did I laugh when you actually met a fan.
Right.
It was like, oh, no, that's my fan. It's fantastic. But I had a guy who hazed me in high school.
Right.
Took a knife to me.
Really?
Terrorized me, made me scared. And I met him later in life, and he was just a dork, and he was like, I'm sorry, dude. I was just really bad. I was like, do you have any idea?
Yeah. I would have been a different person had you not frightened me.
Yeah.
But
I might not have gone into show business if I thought I was loved.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Mom and Dad, for not being good.
Yeah.
For not doing a good job.
So, all right. So the show is going good.
Yeah.
What's your connection with Sub Pop Records that you're doing this thing tonight?
I don't know. Eugene and I are friends, and Sub Pop has become. I always liked them, and they. Who did I interview? I don't remember, but at some point I've gotten back into vinyl. And I.
You're the guy who's gone back to vinyl.
I'm one of them.
Wow. Is it because of the sound quality?
Look, it's a very reasonably it's a reasonable midlife crisis. I can't run it into a mountain. I can't get in trouble for having sex with it. Yeah, I just spend it's hard to have sex with a tube amplifier. All right? I'm not that
difficult.
small.
Although there are websites.
Yeah. So, I just looked into it because I just had one of these. I had a few hundred records, and I wanted to play them, and I've always had a turntable. But then I go to Nashville, and I interview Jack White. I go to his place, his studio for the podcast, right? And I walk into his place, and there's like a wall of Macintosh tube amplifiers. And I'm
those are the
oh,
greatest.
My God, right, those are amazing. He's got 10 of them. How much could it cost for one? I'm going to get one of those. And I go back to L.A., and I go to price those things. And I'm like, there's the one I saw at Jack White's. How much is that one? The guy goes, that's $15,000. And I'm like, oh, my God. Right, so then I'm like, I could put it on my credit card. But if I buy something to listen to records that cost $15,000, there's no way I'm ever going to enjoy a record, because you're going to be sitting there listening, and you're going to be thinking, like, does this sound like $15,000? I don't think it sounds like that. There's no way.
No way.
Yeah, and then you're going to go to some idiot's house who's just got like a closing play, and you're like, that sounds great. What am I, an idiot?
$149.
Right, exactly. So I found a reasonably priced tube amp, and then I got into this rabbit hole of, there's a guy who's selling vinyl down the street. There's another guy up the street. And it brings you back when you're our age.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when records was it. And going to a record store, it wasn't just, buying records. There were guys there. You talk to the dudes. You talk about music.
Social.
Right. And what's surprising is, like, there's still records I stop on in these bins that I didn't buy in high school, but I thought I should buy.
And you can afford them now.
Well, yeah, but I don't
You've
like...
got a television show.
Well, yeah, they're not that expensive.
They're not
believe me. They're like,
you can afford them even without the television show.
Yeah, sure. They're like $10, $12. I mean, I'm not a collector. I just want to listen. And so, like, but I'll stop on things that I never wrapped my brain around in high school. Like, I'll come to, like, Jeff Beck, Wired. Do I need Jeff Beck, Wired? Yes. Like, there was some part of my brain that, well, if you're a Beck guy. Record. If you're a Beck guy. Oh. I'm more of a, he's a little too technical for me for some reason.
That Wired record, that's Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, you need that one.
Yeah, that's a great record.
Okay, so now I finally have to buy that. I've rebought a lot of records I had.
Wired is amazing.
So what about because I remember no piece of vinyl was ever perfect. There was always a pop or a scratch.
Well, yeah, for years, like when I had this, like I knew a guy when I was in like 7th or 8th grade. He brought a cassette player on the school bus, and he had "Sweet Virginia" by the Stones from Exile, and that was the first I'd heard it. Is him playing it, but on the tape there was a skip. So when I finally like the record that he recorded the tape from had a skip on it, and up to this day, if I hear "Sweet Virginia," I'm waiting for that pop. Yeah, look, you get by it. There's something really sort of kind of comforting about spinning a disc because you put the vinyl on, you sit down. I spent about $5,000 on a pretty good setup, and you sit there and you listen to the whole record, and it does. Like some people are like, look, they've done tests. The sound quality is not better than digital, and I'm like, yeah, but I can see it spinning and it feels better. Right. I see those tubes humming, and
that's
I like
baloney.
it.
By the way, it is better.
Sure, of course, it's better.
Tell you why, digitals, they boil the music down to ones and zeros, and they throw out 80% of the information.
Right, it's all right here.
It's like taking a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy.
Right.
It's better.
When you listen to vinyl, man, there's some records that I listened to in high school, and I didn't have a good stereo, obviously, because there are some records where I'm like, I never heard this like this. Like, it's completely different, because the amp I got... There's the phono preamp is built in. There's 2 knobs on it, dude. There's a balance and a volume. It's coming right off the record. There's no tone knobs.
You know how you could tell the difference between a good stereo and a bad piece of crap?
How?
On a good stereo, you hear the Beatles say, "Cranberry sauce." On a bad one, you think they say, "I buried Paul."
But now I got a guy at a record store, this guy Dan at Gimme Records down the street from me. Like, I don't drink, I don't do drugs. And there was this moment a couple months ago, I got in an argument with the girlfriend, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. And I'm in my car, I'm like, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to the record store. So this guy who I don't really know that well.
Drown your sorrows.
That's right. So I'm going through vinyl, and I don't really know this guy, and I'm like, yeah, I had a fight.